Friends, Japan has just made a very important announcement in its defense strategy. The country is speeding up the deployment of powerful new missile systems, almost a year earlier than originally planned. Now this may sound like a normal defense update, but actually it signals something much bigger. It reflects Japan's growing security concerns, changing regional dynamics, and even a transformation of Japan's long-standing pacifist defense policy. So in this video, let's understand, what exactly is Japan deploying, why is it rushing the timeline, how much money is involved, and what could this mean for the future of security in East Asia? On August 29th, Japan's Ministry of Defense officially confirmed that the new Type 12 surface-to-ship missile system will be deployed earlier than expected. This is not an ordinary missile. It is a long-range precision strike weapon with an upgraded range of around 1,000 kilometers. That means it can cover vast areas of the East China Sea and even reach into potential adversary territories if required. Originally, these systems were scheduled for later deployment, but now, the ground-based version will be deployed in Kumamoto on Kyushu Island by the end of this fiscal year. Even the ship-based and air-launched versions are being brought forward to fiscal year 2027, so Japan is clearly pushing ahead with urgency. The obvious question is, why so fast? The answer lies in the regional environment. China has been expanding its naval and air activities around Japan, especially near the disputed Senkaku Islands. In fact, just recently, a Chinese fighter jet came dangerously close to a Japanese patrol plane in the Pacific, highlighting how tense the skies have become. North Korea continues to launch ballistic missiles into the sea, keeping both Japan and South Korea on constant alert. And Russia, after its invasion of Ukraine, has also increased military coordination with China in the Pacific region. For Japan, this means that the security situation is deteriorating rapidly. By accelerating its missile deployment, Japan wants to strengthen what it calls a counter-strike capability. In simple terms, this means Japan wants to be able not just to defend itself, but also to strike back effectively if attacked. Of course, none of this comes cheap. For fiscal year 2026, the Japanese Defense Ministry has requested a record 8.8 trillion yen budget. That's roughly 60 billion US dollars, the largest ever in Japan's history. A big portion of this money will go into long-range missile programs and drone systems. This includes not just the Japanese-made Type 12, but also US-supplied Tomahawk cruise missiles. At the same time, Japan is investing in unmanned technologies, aerial drones, surface drones, and even undersea drones, building a much more versatile defense network. The Type 12 is just one part of the story. Japan is also preparing to deploy the Hypervelocity Gliding Projectile, or HVGP. This is essentially a hypersonic glide weapon designed for long-range precision strikes at extremely high speeds. It is expected to be deployed in phases across northern, central, and southern Japan between 2025 and 2027. In addition, Japan is modifying its F-2 fighter jets to carry these upgraded missiles. Naval destroyers like the JS Teruzuki will also be equipped with them. Even ground facilities such as Camp Fuji will be used to train and operate with these systems. So Japan is not only buying missiles, it is integrating them across land, air, and sea platforms simultaneously. This is where the story becomes historic. Since World War II, Japan has followed a pacifist constitution, which restricted its military to purely self-defense purposes. For decades, Japan avoided any kind of offensive weapons. But with these new missile programs, Japan is openly moving toward a deterrent strategy. Instead of waiting to be attacked, Japan wants to ensure that it can immediately strike back at enemy bases, disrupting their ability to launch further attacks. This is a huge policy shift. It is one of the biggest transformations in Japan's defense posture in the last 70 years. Of course, there are challenges. First, such massive defense spending, 8.8 trillion yen, is difficult to sustain in the long term. Japan has an aging population and high public debt, so questions will arise about affordability. Second, there is political debate inside Japan. Critics argue this risks escalating tensions instead of calming them. Third, neighboring countries like China and North Korea are likely to respond with their own military buildups, possibly creating a regional arms race. So while Japan feels this is necessary for security, it could also trigger greater instability. So friends, what's the big picture? By accelerating deployment of the Type 12 missile system and preparing hypersonic and Tomahawk capabilities, Japan is signaling that it will no longer rely only on defense. It is preparing to deter threats with credible strike power. This is not just about weapons, it's about Japan redefining its role in the Indo Pacific security architecture. As tensions rise with China, North Korea, and Russia, This move could reshape the balance of power in the region. What do you think? Is Japan making the right decision by strengthening its strike capabilities, or could this lead to an arms race that makes the region more dangerous? Let's discuss in the comments.